There's a small group of people who remember dialing numbers on a rotary phone, and also remember watching the first iPhone change everything. If you were born somewhere between the late 70s and mid 80s, you've probably felt this weird in-between energy your whole life, too young to fully belong to Gen X. Too old to feel completely like a millennial. Some researchers started calling this group Xennials. A microgeneration. A narrow window of time that created a very specific kind of person, and honestly, it's worth talking about. You grew up in a world that didn't move this fast. When you were bored, you just stayed bored. You memorized phone numbers. If you missed your favorite TV show, that was it.no. Replay.no. Streaming gone. Plans were made in advance. If someone said, meet at 5, you showed up at 5. There was no, I'm 10 minutes awake text. You just hoped your friends were there. There was trust in that, commitment, patience, and then, almost overnight, everything changed. By the time you were stepping into adulthood, the internet exploded, cell phones became normal, social media showed up one platform after another, first Friendster, then MySpace, then Facebook. Suddenly everyone was online. Your teenage years and your 20s looked like they belonged to completely different centuries. And here's where it gets interesting: the part of your brain responsible for adapting, planning, and learning complex things, the prefrontal cortex, keeps developing until around 25. In other words, when the digital world took over, your brain was still in prime adapt and absorb mode. You were young enough to adjust naturally, but old enough to remember life before it. That creates something rare: you can sit in a room and actually talk to someone without checking your phone every 30 seconds. But you also don't panic when new software updates drop. You remember what it felt like to be unreachable, really unreachable for hours. You experienced both realities, and that changes you. Think about privacy for a second. Your awkward phases, your bad haircuts, your cringy teenage moments, most of them exist only in memory, maybe in a shoebox somewhere. They aren't permanently searchable. You grew up in a time when memories could fade, when stories could evolve, when embarrassment didn't follow you forever in digital form. That creates a different relationship with your past. But here's the other side of the story. Just as many of you were building careers, 2008 happened. The financial crisis hit right when you were supposed to be finding stability. For a lot of people, that left a mark. When instability shows up during your early adult years, it sticks. It shapes how you think about money. Security. Risk. So now you have this interesting mix. You're adaptable because you had to be, but somewhere in the back of your mind, there's always a quiet question: what if it all collapses again? And nobody really talks about that combination. Culturally, generations get thrown into big boxes: Gen X. Millennials, end of discussion. But if you live through rapid change during your most formative years, that experience is different. You grew up with freedom, your parents didn't track your location, you figured things out on your own, you entertained yourself, you dealt with boredom without instant dopamine. But you also entered adulthood during the hopeful early days of the internet, when technology felt like it would connect everyone and fix everything. You're skeptical, but not cynical, independent, but collaborative, digital, but nostalgic for analog. You can hold contradictions without it feeling strange. You don't romanticize the past completely, because let's be honest, modern convenience is amazing. But you also understand what we traded away. We lost patience. We lost deep boredom, the kind that sparks creativity. We lost being fully present without something buzzing in our pocket. At the same time, we gained connection, information, and opportunity beyond imagination. If you're in this in-between group, you might sometimes feel like you don't fully belong anywhere. Too old for certain trends, too young for certain conversations. But maybe that's the point: you're not stuck between two worlds. You're proof that humans can survive massive transitions and still stay themselves. In a world that keeps reinventing itself every few years, maybe the people who already lived through one huge shift are exactly the ones who understand how to adapt without disappearing. And maybe that's not something small. If this felt personal, you're not alone. There's a lot more to unpack about how change shapes identity, and I've got more videos coming that explore exactly that. I'll see you in the next one.